No. We better find out if it's a big deal or not, but they said, well, now it's a bigger deal. You can, but I think there's.
That would be
great.
Okay.
Okay, we are ready to roll here.
It's bad.
Good morning,
I can send
everyone.
for this.
Welcome to the county board workshop on strategic priorities. Residents first, effective, efficient, and accessible operations. I'm Ramsey County Commissioner Mai Chong. I will kick us off here. Again, courtesy reminder to everyone here that this board workshop is recorded and live streamed on Zoom. There will be no votes taken here during this workshop. So with that, let's start with introductions of who's in the room here. I will go around the table here first and then go to the audience. I'll start to the left.
Garrison McMurtry, Commissioner, District 3.
Kelly Miller, Commissioner, District 7.
Ali, Director of Financial Assistance Services.
Chetan Ganatra, Chief Information Officer for Ramsey County.
Karen Francois, Deputy County Manager for the Information and Public Records Service Team.
Carrie Collins, Deputy County Manager for the Economic Growth and Community Investment Service Team.
Lingbecker County Manager. Rena Moran, Commissioner, District 4, so far away. Mary Jo McGuire, Commissioner, District 2. Yeah, look at that.
Tara Devon Singh, Commissioner, District 1.
Rafael, District 5.
And to the side over here, Gloria Reyes, Deputy County Manager and Safety Justice Service Team.
Veronica Jackson, Race and Health Equity Administrator.
Lydia Doma, Interim Policy and Planning Director. Dana DeMaster, Director of Innovation and Strategy of Health and Wellness.
Federation Health City Administrator, Policy Planning.
She's one of the 40.
Chain Administrative.
Jason Devine, Deputy Director for Financial Assistance.
Jesse Walton, Program Evaluator. Sarah Myatt, Manager of Evaluation Research and Living Team and Division of Innovation and Strategy.
Lynn Donnelly, Deputy Director of Enterprise and Administrative Services.
Tracy Nelson, Deputy Director of Information Services.
Larry Timmerman, Policy and Planning.
Lindsay Menard, Policy and Planning.
Dave Zappa, Policy and Planning.
Alex Smith, Deputy County Manager of Planning and Planning. Shannon Ross, Director of Enterprise and Administrative Services.
Scott Marshall, he, him pronouns, Resident Experience Manager.
Sarah Auden, Program Evaluator. Marissa Dillon, Security Coordinator. Jen Emmerich, Policy and Planning.
Matt Hill, Commissioner McMurtry's office.
All right. Well, thank you, folks. This is the third in a series of board workshops that center our 7 county-wide strategic priorities and lift up key department level performance measures as a follow-up to the service team performance measure presentations from last September. The workshop this morning will focus on the strategic priority resident first, effective, efficient, and accessible operations. And this afternoon, we will learn more about the all hands on deck call to action with Commissioner Devon Singh chairing. So I will hand it off to the team here and welcome Deputy County Manager Carrie Collins, Deputy County Manager Karen Francois, Director Chetan Ganatra, and Director Ali to start off this workshop.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Chair and Commissioners. We'll start by walking through the agenda here. All right, and we'll begin by articulating how this strategic priority came about, its origin story, if you will, and its definition. We'll talk a little bit about the distinction between the priority and the program, and what has been called the R1 program is really shorthand for residents first. We'll take a moment to recognize the accomplishments and the people who worked on the Residents First program to date, and finally, we'll talk a bit about the evolution of the Residents First strategic priority into the future here. Our hope is to not only make meaning of the work that has been done thus far, but to highlight the importance of the Residents First effort as we move forward, particularly in the light of our current challenges. All right, moving on to the next slide. The Residents First strategic priority was established in 2019, and it was established to ensure that the county was really being intentional in terms of how we funnel energy, effort, and funding into putting the resident in the center of all that we do. It was an acknowledgement that we need to break down, prior siloed way of thinking and operating, allowing us to look at the county through a resident lens. And I'll turn it over to Deputy County Manager Francois for its origin.
Thank you so much, Chair and Commissioners. Before we move on, I just want to take a moment to reflect on the story of Residents First, where we've been, what we've built, and where we're headed. Residents First has always been more than just a set of projects. It's a mindset. It's an ecosystem. It's a cultural shift. It's how we work together across the county to put people, our residents, at the center of every decision. This journey started with an honest look in the mirror. We recognized back in 2018 that we could do a better job designing services and service delivery by centering our residents. We also recognized that trust in government, especially at the local level, wasn't as strong as it should be or could be. And that recognition led to action. Leadership stepped up. We made a clear commitment to change and launch what became the Residents First strategic priority, but also the Residents First or R1 program, which is governed by the strategic priority. The goal, to build systems and services that are more accessible, more equitable, and more respectful. And thanks to the commitment and creativity of staff across the county, as well as residents and community partnerships, we've made real tangible progress. Since 2019, we've invested more than $19 million into nearly 30 projects that improve access, upgrade technology, and better connect people to what they need. 19 of those projects are complete, 7 are in motion right now. We've reimagined service centers to feel more welcoming. We've built new tools like online appointment scheduling, AI translation, all to meet people where they are. We've also piloted a resident relationship management system that helps our staff see a fuller picture of each resident's experience. And we continue to build out the RRM, or Resident Relationship Management System, in conjunction with partners across the state. We're also developing a better screening tool, upgrading case management systems, supporting transportation needs for job seekers, and moving into a larger, more accessible downtown service center this summer, just to name a few projects that are still in flight. We're not going to spend time today on these projects because today is about 2 key performance measures that are critical to the evolution of the Residents First mindset. But this is what progress looks like when we lead with purpose, when we lead strategically, and none of this happened overnight.
Little background music.
Yes. None of it happened overnight, and none of it happened on its own. It happened because of you, the board, and your support, and all of the people in this room and across the county. It happened because so many people across departments, roles across the years, across community, leaned into the Residents First mindset. We've listened to residents, we've challenged the status quo, we've made space for new ideas and built partnerships that have stretched across service teams and across the community. We've shown what it means to care, not just about the work, but about the people that we do the work for. So before we look ahead, I want to just pause and say thank you to every staff member who helped move a project forward, hosted a listening session, reviewed a policy, staffed a front desk, responded to a resident in crisis, tested a new system, or simply asked, how can we make this better? You have all been part of building something lasting. I'd like to give a special thanks to the former R1 Advisory Board Chair, Katrina Mosser, who you'll be seeing more of this afternoon, and also members of the R1 Advisory Board, including Dana DeMaster, Chetan Ganatra, Lydia Gurma, Jean Kruger, Rose Lindsay, Trish Schophammer, and the many residents and community groups that have guided this work. Also to our controllers, Tracy West and Farah Ali, and to our program manager, Tracy Nelson. This is your story, and your work, all of your work, has laid the foundation for what has come next. And we're going to talk about that a lot more this afternoon. As we continue to move forward, the challenge is to keep growing this mindset deeper, wider, and more consistently across the county. Because residents first isn't just a slogan. It's a shared belief, and it's how we will continue to earn the trust, respect, and partnership of the people we serve. So thanks to all of you for being a part of it and for continuing to be a part of this movement. I'll send it back to Carrie.
Thanks. I'll say, in terms of transitioning to an all hands on deck, this really was, we'll call it a spinoff of the residents first model. We realized it was time to evolve our residents first approach and kind of develop a model to expedite the way in which we change systems. So while the work done to date in residents first has been significantly impactful, we recognize the need to change to be more agile and focused on glaring resident issues such as application processing and wait times. And this has led to us rethinking our original approach that has led to AHOD. You know, AHOD is, as mentioned, you know, it stands for all hands on deck. It's intended to be a model where everyone in every corner of the county comes together or rallies around an issue and expedites system improvement together. And AHOD is grounded in a dedication to continuous improvement and is helping us to respond quickly to changing requirements as well as external conditions. This approach is critical in our current dynamic environment where needs and priorities can shift rapidly, and you all are very familiar with the kind of changing priorities as well. In short, all hands on deck, or AHOD, is a framework that enables us and will continue to enable us to be more responsive, efficient, and resident focused. This afternoon, as you know, we'll focus on the current work being done under that framework, but I just wanted to set the table today. Now we'll go into our performance measures here. So there are two performance measures we're going to be highlighting and discussing today that support the resident first strategic priority. They include public Wi-Fi availability and expedited SNAP processing times. So at this time, I'd like to introduce you to Chetan Ganatra, our Chief Information Officer and Director of Information Services, as well as Ali, Director of Financial Assistance Services, to tell you more about these measures and how they support the resident first priority.
Thank you, DCM Collins. Chair, Commissioners, I'm Chetan Ganatra, and I'm the Chief Information Officer for Ramsey County. I had to write down to introduce myself because when I talk about passionate topics, people tell me I forget to introduce myself. So, having introduced, let's move on to the measures. Building on DCM Collins' remarks, one of our key residents' first performance measure is the availability of free public Wi-Fi within Ramsey County facilities. I would like to first examine the importance of this initiative. For a long time, access to internet hasn't been universal. As you'll see on the screen, we have a map of the original red line map where it shows, which was essentially created for some other reason, but it shows the economic and other disparities that exist within our communities. And the digital inequities follow the same pattern because all of these are connected. All inequities feed into each other. For a long time, like I said, access to internet hasn't been universal, creating a digital divide in the communities we serve. As identified in a digital equity blueprint study, done by Ramsey County in collaboration with City of St. Paul. There were three primary reasons that were identified as reasons for this digital inequity. One was unavailability or unaffordability of good internet connectivity. Next was lack of digital skills. And third, but that's not the last, these were the three main reasons: lack of access to devices needed for participating in an increasing digital world. As you will see, on top of all of that was the advocacy and awareness to bring about an awareness of these digital inequities that exist in our communities today. As a part of the performance measure, we tried to mitigate unavailability or unaffordability of reliable internet connection by providing free public Wi-Fi at resident-facing county facilities. Also. But
Before you go, Commissioner Moran.
This
Sure.
is way above my head here. What's the colors for? And then I don't get the analogy here neither. I'm like,
I
what does that
will
mean?
speak to that. So this map here is the original red line map that was created to represent which areas where
So what's the
companies.
red, what's the blue, what's the black, what's the yellow? What do
The
those
red
things mean?
line or the red area is the area where mortgage companies in 1930s or 40s decided they will not do any mortgage business, whether the riskiest. Yellow was more, they would do business, but the mortgage would be very risky.
Mm,
The blue was affluent areas. If you see the highlands and other areas are still the affluent areas and they would do business there. And when we looked at the digital inequities, they follow this same pattern of economic inequity or health inequity that exists as represented by this map.
Okay, let's have one.
In the store.
And the stool.
What's the analogy?
Stool is the reason behind why these digital inequities exist, and the map was more of a representation of how these digital inequities follow all other inequities that exist in the community today.
Okay, a three-legged stool is all those things. The three-legged stool is all those things.
Three-legged stool is the reason identified
Yeah.
of what we call, or what are the components of digital inequity. People either,
It was only me, right?
No.
and I should have gone into that, but I talked about this earlier. I didn't realize that now this is a newer board, so sorry about that.
No, can I just,
Oh, yes.
Yes, please.
Chair Taylor.
with the map, in the future, we need a key,
Yeah.
because I've seen the map before, so I knew what you were, but otherwise I wouldn't know what the map was for.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, it's comparable to the zoning map of the 1920s. And so that's, but it was far more simplified back then in terms of steering individuals into here's where you can invest versus, we'll say, a more traditional land use map. But I think putting a key and understanding the context makes sense. Yeah.
No, definitely. Thank you, Commissioner. We will, I'm sorry. Yeah, the three-legged stool, there are the three components that form up the digital inequity. Either people do not have the skills to utilize whatever connected world that we are living in today, or they do not have devices, the phones, the computers, to be a part of this digital world. And if you have both of them, and if you don't have internet access, all you can connect to is your own computer. So these three came together as components of the digital inequities that exist today. But the county, I will talk about our performance measure, but it's important to also acknowledge the journey that the county took. Through recognizing these challenges as a part of Ramsey County's recognizing these challenges as a part of the Ramsey County's COVID response, the incident management team adopted the Tech Equity Framework from National Digital Inclusion Alliance, NDIA. As a result, the first digital equity project of Tech Packs was launched in 2020, addressing in part the lack of access to devices leg of the stool that you saw in the previous slide. In 2021, we launched the digital equity leadership and core teams to further the county's effort to battle the digital inequities within our communities. On the recommendations of these teams, in 2021, a digital equity fellow was hired, and Ramsey County launched Ramsey Connected website, and the county board kindly proclaimed Digital Inclusion Week in 2022. This addressed the top of the stool that gave it the advocacy and the awareness about digital inequities, and also provided these communities with a single place where they could go to find out all the resources that were available to them through the county or other organizations to participate better in this digital world. But this still left the issue of unaffordability of good internet connectivity unaddressed in part. So county's information services team took a strategic approach to provide free public Wi-Fi at county facilities. Through 2022, our county library stood as the sole provider of free public Wi-Fi within our jurisdiction, accounting for only 20% of county's resident-facing facilities. While a vital resource, this limited access meant many residents faced barriers in accessing essential online services, information, and opportunities. This left a significant digital divide within our community.
Director, I have a question for this public Wi-Fi and the key here. Are these Ramsey County facilities?
These are Ramsey County facilities, and the ones that are marked in blue are the ones where we are able to provide public Wi-Fi today, free public Wi-Fi. Others are the facilities where we do not have it available.
Commissioner Garrison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So knowing that you have your goal for 2027, what is I guess my two-part question. One, how will the funding for the public Wi-Fi expansion be prioritized to meet that goal? And what I mean by that is, like, will there be an equity plan centered around like where you prioritize, you know, getting Wi-Fi set up for folks in areas with the largest need as we get closer to that 2027 goal?
Thank you, Commissioner, for that question. I am answering that in my third slide,
Fantastic.
but
Oh, no, Commissioner Moran and the Commissioner.
Yeah, I just want to know why we don't have access.
I'm going to the
I'm gonna
next.
get there. Okay, maybe you'll get to this one too, but. So I'm just gonna look at Falcon Heights there. It's got an X. So does that mean it's unavailable? Does that mean there's a county building there that's not gonna ever have Wi-Fi?
No,
We're
this
gonna
is
get to
the
that.
current state. This is the current situation.
Right.
This
So-
is how it exists today.
So
It-
what is the county building in Falcon Heights on that end right there that has an X, or is that the whole area? I'm wondering.
No,
if
that's
these
the
are-
county facility.
Gosh, I didn't even know there was a county facility there.
And I will be honest, this map is of all the county facilities. Not all of them might be resident facing.
Yeah.
Mm,
This is the map that we have on our website, the GIS map.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, Commissioner Miller.
Can I ask a question? And maybe you'll get to it, so I'm sorry if I'm asking prematurely. Do you partner with other organizations in the city? I know you mentioned earlier, like the city of St. Paul, when you initially started this. Because I can see why it seems like it's more in suburban Ramsey County, because that's more where our public facing service that, you know, is. But how do we also have access to this for our more city locations? Is that like does St. Paul have similar programs like this as well for their libraries and some of their public facing buildings? Or are we just kind of on our own path and not working in collaboration with other
No.
cities and the state? And I think of other programs that.
We are, and that's a great question, Commissioner. The basis of this program when we started was the digital equity funds that were happening at the state. So we are coordinating with them
Okay.
but the state's focus is more on laying down the fiber in other
Yeah.
areas. The city of St. Paul does provide some public Wi-Fi in some of their facilities. I know their public libraries do have public Wi-Fi. But that left a gap.
Mhm.
You can lay down the fiber, you can lay down some libraries would have it, but there are other facilities where people come to us during their most vulnerable times. And they have to worry about how will I get connected. So this was to help mitigate a part of that problem. This will not solve the whole connectivity problem across our
Right.
county, but this is the step in the right direction.
Right, I agree. Thank you.
I'll have you move on to the next few slides here.
Sure. So I think going back to why we didn't have, Commissioner McGuire, you were asking about why we didn't have Wi-Fi at these locations.
Yeah,
Our existing infrastructure lacked the capacity and the ability to deliver a reliable level of public Wi-Fi service while keeping our county network separate and secured. Now I'm getting into a little of my geek land, but it's important to acknowledge that when you share networks, there is always a risk of security. And unless you have the right infrastructure, the county's Wi-Fi infrastructure, the access points and others that you see are older than me. Some of them. I'm joking, they're not older than me, but they are very old and they cannot handle those kind of loads because they're older technology. So for us to provide public Wi-Fi, we had to first upgrade our infrastructure. County's Wi-Fi was not, it was pre-COVID era Wi-Fi, when people didn't think of Wi-Fi as something you would use to take video calls. If you actually go to some of these older locations and try to take a video call, your video call will glitch because our network cannot handle it.
Madam Chair, on this point, and I found it's Gibbs Farm, I should have known that, that's a county building. You can get other Wi-Fi, you just can't get county Wi-Fi there, like, or you can't get any Wi-Fi there. I mean, now I'm just generally, not just Gibbs Farm, but does it mean that, like, I don't know how this works, because I know we have a secure network. But are there other networks out there that you could access? Like, if I brought my iPad there and could I get on it?
Yes.
Or, okay,
Yeah.
Yes.
even though it's
Madam Chair,
unavailable?
Commissioners, just.
Yeah,
fun
just-
fact, I used to work at the Gibbs Museum in college. There is a picture out there in like the
Nice.
prairie uniform doing
Yeah.
the tours of the museum. Yes, yes. Great gig.
There is,
But yes, there's Wi-Fi that just like any sort of business or organization or your home Wi-Fi, there's a Wi-Fi access. However, that's predominantly for the employees there and not typically accessed by the visitors. Due to the nature of it, it's typically kids groups and other, types of, so you would go to your cellular service if you needed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how that would do.
Commissioner Moran.
This is like really hard. And I know, the pandemic created a whole new thinking and process. But it's just sometimes hard to think that we don't have access like this.
it
at this
is,
moment in
means,
time.
Yeah.
when I first came in, I do remember County Manager Becker, that time was the Director of Workforce Solutions, and she was leading this digital equity initiative. And when I talked to my team and they said, oh, our Wi-Fi cannot do video calls, I was like, I came from a way more mature organization in terms of technology. So it was a shock to my system too. And since the day I joined, I've been working towards this goal of upgrading our Wi-Fi infrastructure and providing public Wi-Fi. Why won't my ICE arena have public Wi-Fi where parents can come sit, do their work when kids are playing?
And just one more thing, because the newer people, like, this was a shock to me when during COVID, we had people, or not even during COVID, but we have people in our community in Ramsey County that go to our library to access a modem. I mean, they can't get Wi-Fi. I mean, you hear about this in the rural areas, but we had our library staff putting modems closer to the wall so that families could come and sit in the parking lot and use the Wi-Fi. Are they still doing that, or are we getting better at it? But that was just a shock to me, because you hear about it in rural Minnesota, but right here in Ramsey County, that was happening.
I would believe some of them might still be doing
Might
that
still be
because
doing that.
affording good Wi-Fi is not easy. That is why I said free good Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
For $20, you'll get very low bandwidth. If you're in an interview and you keep glitching, what are your chances of getting that job?
Right.
And it's a vicious cycle. It feeds into that economic disparity, right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I'll have us move along here. I'm sure there will be plenty more to thread this together.
okay, now it's time to toot my horn a little. So I will, the first, essentially looking at this issue, what we tried to do was we needed to upgrade our existing Wi-Fi infrastructure. So the information services team did a pilot with the resources we had at that moment to test out new devices and see if we could do a secure public Wi-Fi while improving the experience for all employees and everyone else to access our network and make it much more seamless across the county. Once we found out that, yes, the devices and the technology we utilized works well and has a positive impact on the connectivity, building on that successful pilot in 2024, we requested and were fortunate to receive funding from Capital Infrastructure Fund for a comprehensive Wi-Fi enhancement project. This project is designed to significantly improve our overall Wi-Fi infrastructure across all the county facilities, and more importantly, it will allow us to provide free public Wi-Fi at all our resident-facing locations without the maximum risk of security. I can never say there'll be no security risk, because in today's world, anyone who says that is probably lying.
Mhm.
There's always a risk. People always find new ways of hacking, but this will allow us to do so. Moving on to the next slide, and I'm clicking buttons on the wrong laptop.
It happens even to those of us that know a lot.
Keyboards.
Thank you.
At this point, I'm very proud to say that as of 2023, 55% of counties' facilities have complimentary public Wi-Fi available to residents, which includes sites like all of our service centers, public health WIC clinics, Metro Square first, second, and third floors. Fourth and fifth floors are planned with current remodel efforts. So we are working with property management, parks and rec and other departments to make sure, we don't just go and make a remodel of the Wi-Fi infrastructure while they're gonna remodel the space later. We need to find those synergies so as not to waste the taxpayer dollars. Lake Owasso residents, 800 Minnehaha. That was a shock to my system when Director Long reached out and said, hey, our 800 Minnehaha doesn't have Wi-Fi even for employees. So we got that turned around within a month. Parks and Rec admin building now has public Wi-Fi, and Tamarack Nature Center plus the Garden House also have public Wi-Fi access now. By end of 2025, we plan to have 65% of counties' resident-facing facilities upgraded to be able to provide complimentary public Wi-Fi. And the goal is to aim for 100% of counties' resident-facing facilities to be upgraded and provide complimentary Wi-Fi access for all residents who visit those facilities.
And Madam Chair.
Yep.
Do we have dollars to do that now?
Good.
That is where we got the funding from Capital Infrastructure Fund, and the then county manager also directed us to use half the budget from our ITP funds, IT project funds to pay for it. So yes, we do have dollars earmarked for that, but we are being careful how we spend them and prioritizing them. To answer your question, Commissioner McMurtry, we have a group of people who are looking at those priorities, and I'll get into that in a second. This initiative represents a significant step towards bridging the digital divide within our community. By offering free internet access at convenient county facilities, we are empowering our residents with the connectivity they need to participate more fully in today's digital world. This is about more than just convenience. Yes, you can watch YouTube videos, but it's about way more than that. It's about equity and ensuring everyone has the opportunity to thrive in our increasing digital society. With capital improvement fund provided to upgrade technology, used for Wi-Fi, we still needed to define the exact scope of work to ensure it directly improves the health, safety, and well-being of individuals, families, and the broader community, while aligning with Ramsey County's priority of resident-first, effective, efficient, and accessible operations. We have a steering committee consisting of leaders across all county service teams. We almost have a representative from every department who are collaborating on prioritizing the county sites based on the parameters like number one is county facilities that serve residents but have no Wi-Fi. Then next level of priority is the facilities that might have legacy Wi-Fi, the old Wi-Fi where you try to have video call and you'll have to keep saying, I can't hear you, I can't see you.
Mhm.
Those are the facilities that will come next. They will be upgraded, and once we upgrade it, we can support public Wi-Fi over there too. And then next would be facilities across the county that may have Wi-Fi but would benefit from expanding the Wi-Fi for a seamless wireless experience. There are facilities where you can get Wi-Fi in one spot, but you move 10 steps away and your Wi-Fi is bad. So that's the third priority, where we give you a way more seamless experience. Any Ramsey County facility you go to, you'll use the same network name, your device will log in the same way.
And before you move on to there, do you have a list of where the prioritized locations are? And then number two is, are you on track with meeting the goals here that you've laid out then?
Yes, Commissioner, we are fortunately, and I normally like to underpromise and try to overdeliver. So these, we are, I think last time I looked at the numbers for 2025, we were almost nearing our goal and we should surpass them. But it's not the work that slows down. We want to be thoughtful about which sites we prioritize first, and it takes time to take that decision, get everyone on the board.
So you don't have a list?
We do have a list.
Mhm.
We are doing it in two phases, phase one and phase two. We do have a phase one list that I can share out. But again, the steering committee meets regularly and that list could get reprioritized. Let's say we find out we are gonna move some, there is another facility that requires this more than the ones we prioritize, then we are agile enough to change it.
Mhm. And also what I hear you from, in how you make that decision with the committee is just also where the county is making upgrades or improvements to the facility too, that you want to coordinate with that.
So the priorities, I told you, the three priorities, they in conjunction with everything else that is going on at the county, the construction. So we don't redo the same work again and again.
Commissioner Jevonsee.
So in the earlier slide, when we talked about some of the barriers, it was secure internet of a higher quality, modern internet. It was access to a device. There's another piece to it when we talk about people accessing services, whether it's for being able to take a class online or an interview or to talk to telehealth or to talk to a case manager, and that would be to be able to access that in a place of privacy. And I'm wondering is that part of the discussion, not in every site, obviously, but in places like a library or a service center where there may be a small room where somebody can close the door and have those conversations in a way that isn't in a bank of like we see in the traditional, computer sections in a library where it's one computer after the other. There's no way that you could have a meaningful, private conversation in that way, which is so important. And I'm just wondering if that's been part of these discussions at all.
I think libraries do have those private rooms and they have Wi-Fi in them. So people can book those rooms and have conversations from there. As a part of this initiative, I will confess that we didn't think of that. So we will take it back. But what we did think about is, and we are working with property management and the security teams to understand, can we probably provide that Wi-Fi in the library's parking lot too? So you can go sit in your car and have that call.
And the possibility then of maybe a device to check out with a screen and the idea of connecting the device, the internet, and a place of privacy could be the difference of somebody being able to access services. And I even think of some of our court hearings now are they're only online. And how does somebody represent themselves properly if they're sitting in a parking lot on a cell phone they borrowed from a friend, that's not gonna allow them to have, you know, their best space, whether it's and all sorts of reasons. So I'm just throwing that into the mix as something to think about, especially if we're thinking about coordinating this with facility upgrades or things like that. It may be as simple of having a laptop that you can check out at a desk or something and go to a private space or something. I'm just gonna throw that into the mix.
And I cannot speak to the exact programs, but I do know that libraries have some kind of checkout program. I don't know if they give out laptops or iPads. And these programs have changed over time with the funding available. But I think they do have something. I know Director Tang really is passionate about it and she's working towards it, but I do not have all the details.
Just on that point, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much, Commissioner Javen Singh, for bringing this up, because as we all are big users of our libraries, I'm in meetings there all the time, and I sometimes have to bop off to make a phone call. I usually go to my car, hopefully it's not too cold, because the rooms that are available are always really booked, and people can keep them for a really long time. So I'm wondering if we need to designate a couple of rooms for phone call, like an hour limit. Because once you're in a room, I mean, these kids come in and love them, you know, students come and they keep it all day or all afternoon. So I'm very rarely able, I mean, I usually invoke, hey, I'm a commissioner, do you have a staff room I can use? And then sometimes I get to use their staff room, which is not appropriate, but they let me do it. And I mean, it's maybe a staff meeting room that they let me use. So I'm just saying that I think you brought up a really good point, and maybe we need to designate some of those rooms for a time limit.
Yeah, I will take this as a takeaway and I'll work with
Yeah,
Deputy County Manager
yeah.
Collins. So, Jean Kruger, our property management director, is now in some of our spaces have sort of some phone pods, and I think those are maybe a better, like, less committal infrastructure than like setting aside a whole room. They're more like little
Right.
private phone booths in a way. They're a little bit smaller, but they're very portable. We
Yeah.
have a few in Plato in the drop-in space. So let me work with Terry and talk to Jean and Peng and Chayton and figure out, like, can we maybe
Right.
invest in a few of those kind of units?
Well, and I'll even say, you know, we did something as, so when I was at NYFS, we had set up our telehealth for whatever, and we realized very quickly we had to have an on-site private space for people who didn't have, you know, the idea, the assumption that you would have all of the device
Yeah.
privacy and internet off-site. So we had to create a space on-site to allow them to do that. And so, but even the idea of election booths.
Yeah.
And it's something that would create a place of privacy. It doesn't have to be a major investment,
Yeah.
but just thoughtfulness, right? Not everybody has a car, not everybody has a phone.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I will say in terms of building out future space, that is absolutely a part of the kind of
Good.
program, if you will. An example being our new Career Force Center has private space, as well as building out the service center for FAS Enterprise Services that will have dedicated rooms available as well. So certainly that's part of the program moving forward. It's just the look back, if you will. In terms of libraries, I know that you do get capped at a specific time.
Do you?
Yeah, Director Yang talks about their managing that. It takes staff management, because as you can imagine, people hang out in the rooms for a while.
Right.
But there is a cap typically. With that said, though, I think the takeaway, making sure that there's walk-in space, because it's that
Yes.
digital equity piece. If you know to go online and reserve the room
Yeah.
ahead of time,
Right.
then you're getting a leg up versus having that, oh, I've got a quick, appointment. I've got an interview today. Oh, I need a space. We'll find space to accommodate that as well.
And
Yeah.
some of the rooms are small. And I'm not saying a whole meeting room for one phone call, we're lucky, we have some small study rooms, which everybody loves.
So that's
Thank you.
That's
Thank
an
you.
amazing view of things that I actually didn't see it. So I'll give you credit, Commissioner, and
Mhm.
Director Yang and Director Kruger are a part of the steering committee. So I will bring this thought to them and see how we can work it into our plans.
This is great. Just an overall follow-up question. May this be considered capital improvements as we are building out in new locations? Does that count as capital investments? And a closer example would be maybe the new environmental service center? Was the Wi-Fi incorporated in as a part of the capital costs?
Is this considered a capital investment? Yes, in, at least in the IT accounting world, anything that you put in for one-time investment is a capital investment and it depreciates over time. I'm scared to say more about it with the CFO sitting behind me there.
She's
She, but,
Yay.
Thank you,
Commissioners,
CFO.
so
Yeah.
there, I just want to distinguish between, I think, CIO Ganatra was mentioning, there's operating capital, like he may invest throughout his operating budget in capital investments that last 2, 5, 10 years. Then you can do a capital project in our CIP budget, which you all approve. We did do the public Wi-Fi in there because we are a home rule charter county. We are allowed to actually do capital investments in our CIP program. But those one-offs, like, oh, we're gonna go out here and do this, that's not part of, and he's talking about that now, but he also has other investments he makes within his operating budget that he calls operating capital. But I want to make sure, yes, IT investments are allowed in a CIP project, but it would have to be a pretty large project. And they are also included in other, like when we redid Metro Square, the investment in the IT infrastructure of that building is also included in the CIP.
It's bundled into
Yes,
a
a
larger
larger,
request for
exactly.
improvements to spaces and.
Okay, great.
so that allowed us to do 2 more facilities in the money we had because it was handled by Director Kruger from property management in her improvement plans. But as she said, operating capital, 5 years down the line, when I need to upgrade those devices because now they're out of support, that will come out of the operating capital and we'll do a life cycle management.
Great. And then another question is about like laying down fiber. Are all of our roads, does it have fiber or connected for Wi-Fi or for internet connection?
I think I'll have to go to Director of Public Works for that. We do not own at least I don't think county owns the fiber per se. I know some counties do, but I don't want to speak the untruth here. I don't know for sure whether.
Yeah, I think when we did our connectivity blueprint, Commissioner, there's a map in there. I think most of the county is fairly connected. It's just a matter of, sometimes the plan that people have to be able to access the connectivity, if that makes sense. So we have a fairly connected urban core, unlike rural Minnesota. It's just really the affordability to be able to afford the plan, right? A lot of people are not connected through, they're more connected to our limited data plan. And so it doesn't really matter what the infrastructure is. They're kind of using a mobile connection and they have limited, you know, like the connection starts to go down when you buy those cheaper plans where as the more you use in a month, toward the end of the month, you're getting worse and worse connectivity, if that makes sense. So it's less impacted by like the infrastructure, if that makes sense. It's more the plan.
Okay.
We have a pretty connected county, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, the goal of this is just driving us to a level of like accessing Wi-Fi where we can do video calls or like the higher bandwidth capacity for use, right?
And providing free Wi-Fi to residents who cannot probably afford a higher plan on their own to come to the county facility, or let's say someone goes to a WIC clinic and we have a form that we need to register online. If they have to use their own data plan, it costs them money. But this allows them to do it conveniently without having to worry about if I have data left in my plan or not.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioners. I love the questions. I see this group is more passionate than me, if not more, at least as passionate as me about this topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll pass it over to Director Ali.
Thank you, Director Ganatra. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to join you here today. I'm going to talk to you about SNAP expedited processing timeliness and how this measure supports this county's resident first strategic priority, effective, efficient, accessible operations. But before that, I would like to highlight that Financial Assistance Services Department connects Ramsey County residents to programs that promote stability, dignity, and well-being. We administer 11 different programs from federal, state, and a county. Each program has its own set of funding source, rules, timeliness, and verification standards. FAS staff navigate eligibility and rules across all these programs that I just mentioned. These programs help basic needs like food, cash assistance, housing support, healthcare, and childcare. We serve tens of thousands of households annually. We are the first line of support when residents face jobless, medical crisis, facing homelessness, or other life disruptions. Easy access to these programs is critical for residents in reducing disparities in health and income. Among these 11 programs, we manage a SNAP program, which I'm going to talk to you about. SNAP expedited processing timeliness requires specific application timeliness. As you can see on this slide, SNAP eligibility depends on household size and income. Households may be eligible if their income is below those limits that you can see on the screen. But I wanted to quickly clarify one point from the slide that you can see. The household income limit you see on this slide is maximum income limit with 200% of federal poverty guidelines. The income limit is, this income limit is for broad-based categorical eligibility. However, the households that are not categorically eligible, the gross income limit is 130% of federal poverty guidelines, and their income is lower than the one that you see on the screen. I just wanted to acknowledge that the difference to keep the technical accuracy clear.
Director Ali,
Yes.
may you say more about like what categorically eligible means in this case?
Yes, Commissioner. So categorical eligibility is there is a certain, I'm going to talk about now what are the criteria and being measured, but in order to be categorical eligible is certain groups of households that have, for example, SSI recipients. If you receive SSI recipient, you're automatically eligible for SNAP, but you may not get depending on your income, because you have to pass also what's called net income. There's a gross income and there is a net income. So I will talk more about that in the next slide, who's eligible for eligibility for criteria for expedited services. Okay, as we look.
Before we move on, sorry, I have two questions.
Sure.
Chair Tega.
I mean, again, with this is, you need like a key, is that a month, a year?
Yes, good question. This is the monthly income.
Monthly. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, Commissioner Moran.
So is this a 7-day wait period? I mean, a 30-day wait period to apply for this? It usually takes up to 30 days. What's the norm?
So what I'm going to talk, SNAP program has a different timeliness for processing. As you can see on the screen, there is a processing that what we call regular SNAP processing timeliness, which is 30-day process. If someone meets the eligibility for the criteria, then we have to process their application with 7 days. This presentation today is about this benchmark, which I'm going to talk about.
Okay, 7 days.
7 days. As we take a closer look at why this performance measure matters and how we are performing, that will be on the next slide, please. So on this slide, you can see expedited SNAP criteria. So as I mentioned, there is eligibility to be within this group when the household income limit is less than $150 a month, and they have less than $100 in their liquid asset, which is cash or bank account that they have. Or their combined income and asset is less than their monthly household expenses. As you can see, this is a very fraction of money that one could have if someone does not have enough money and they meet these criteria, they're eligible for expedited services, and therefore we have to process their application, within 7 days and issue the benefit. So why this performance metric is crucial? This performance measure for the SNAP expedited process is crucial for several reasons. One is immediate need. Expedited processing in the SNAP program is designed to provide quick assistance to households in crisis. Timely processing ensures that families facing severe hardship receive the support they urgently need. Number two, compliance. There are federal and state regulations governing the timely processing of SNAP expedited services. Meeting this timeliness helps our department stay compliant with legal requirements and avoid corrective action plan, which will require to improve our performance. Third, resource allocation. High performance in this metric indicates efficient use of our resources. It demonstrates ability to handle urgent cases swiftly, potentially reducing the backlog and allowing staff to focus on standard application process, which is 30 days and other duties in the department. Maintaining a high percentage of timely processed expedited SNAP cases is critical for addressing urgent needs, ensuring compliance, managing resources effectively, and building trust with the community, protecting public health, and improving our agency's performance. Next slide, please. This slide, you can see the promote. So how are we doing with the performance metrics that I just talked about? In this slide, you can see our performance measures from 2020 to 2024, and then our goal for 2025 up to 2027. As you can see on this slide, our department has consistently fallen short of the federal timeliness threshold of 96% over the past 5 years. There are a number of contributing factors. Sustained growth in application value as main benefit made it easier for residents to apply for assistance. That started back in 2021. High caseloads, workforce shortage, inefficient workflows, and scan delays have all contributed to the lower performance over the last few years. I just wanted to point out that we fully understand and recognize that these numbers don't reflect the level of performance and responsiveness that residents in crisis deserve. As you will hear in our next slides, we have taken significant steps to address these issues. Next slide, please. This slide shows the performance measure in graph model. As you can see, the number of applications is increased by 13%, almost 13% from 2023 to 2024. There are a number of reasons that this was happening. As we all know, during COVID time, the increased level of support needed from the community has significantly increased. Reduced administrative verifications and requirements. Expanded eligibility period for all programs. As a public health emergency ended in 2024, we continue to experience significant challenges with our timeliness, as you can see on the chart. Renewal and eligibility requirement resumed for all programs. Demand for economic benefits surging post-pandemic. Increased application and caseloads. All these were contributing factors that we had experienced these challenges that we have been facing. But what are we doing to address these challenges? Next slide, please.
Oh, before you move on,
Yeah.
Mr. McMurtry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do you have numbers on the staff, the changes for staff? Because I know that it's helpful to see the increase in the total applications, but have we seen staff levels increase as well, or have they decreased or remained steady? Just knowing that with these increase in caseloads, do we have the staff capacity to meet a lot of those needs?
Madam Chair, Commissioner, that's a very good question. In this afternoon in our workshop, I'm going to talk under all hands on deck. I will be talking about our staffing level and how many staff that we hired and how we're doing. But it's clear there's a relationship between the staff turnover and growing the community needs and the caseload sizes. So this has been significant during this COVID time, but I will be explaining more today in our afternoon session.
Commissioner Devon.
When I'm looking at this graph, I apologize, I'm not doing the math in my head, so, the difference of, in 2020, 50% of 6,642. Would be somewhere upwards of 3,000. What would the 14% of the 9,440 in 2024 be? I mean, have we maintained a steady amount of the same number have been processed, it's just that it has increased? Or it looks almost as if we would have a drop in the amount we've been able to process. And I'm just, can you just kind of flesh those numbers out a little bit?
Yes, so in 2024, that 14% of application, that represented about 13% difference from 2023. And the total of application is that qualified in this category. So I just wanted to point out the number of application that you see in here. For example, in 2024, we had 9,440 applications that were eligible for expedited services. Out of those, we were only to meet 14% of those applications. But the general application that we received that could fall within 30-day process is much bigger than this number.
Okay, so it's not just the individuals who are, the staff teams that are working on this are working on all of that, so
Correct.
it's okay.
Yeah.
So it's a greater context of the load that they were facing, not just what we're seeing.
Absolutely.
That's
This
super
is
helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moran?
I'm a white person, why? Why only 14%? What happened that, to me, that's like really, really low?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why?
And I agree with you, Commissioner. This, the money challenges that I just talked about, there has been many, contributions that, we were not able to process. Number one, historically, before COVID, we used to have people come in person for services. Many of those people who meet this category, we were able to process their applications a little bit faster because they were in person. But during COVID time, we shifted everything to digital, online applications, and that delayed the process to connect applications. The timeliness for screening this application is very swift. We have to screen them within 24 hours, take an action within 7 days and approve the case. So that was the main challenge that we see. In addition to that, they increased the number and lower staffing, so that contributed. The more staff that you have, the better that you can handle the volume that you receive. But if your demand does not meet with your staffing resources, then this is the challenge that happens. And we
Less
did,
staff.
yeah, staff,
That was what I'm hearing, less staff.
less
more
staff,
applications.
and more applications.
And before we move on from this, the number that we're seeing here are people who are eligible for SNAP or only eligible for expedited.
Expedited in this
processing.
category, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have the number of folks who are enrolled in SNAP?
Yes. So,
Oh, great.
yeah, so
Yeah.
during COVID time, this is, I'm just talking about over my head now. Before COVID, overall, SNAP caseload for Ramsey County was between 29, 28, 30,000. Since the COVID time, our caseload now is about 33,000. The other thing that I wanted to point out, not every application that you see that is counted in here. There are a number of applications that under the impression that they're eligible for program, they came on apply. And because of the other, conditions, they may not be eligible for program, and those that get denied, and you don't see the number here. But the active caseload in Ramsey County today for SNAP program is about 33,000. That's a significant increase.
That's a significant increase, that's
Oh,
like,
just a minute,
okay.
Commissioner Moran, I just want to acknowledge you for voice.
Mhm. Yeah.
Voice recording.
Which means that's a significant needs, right? That
Absolutely.
people are not getting served. So I look forward to what we're doing now to increase these numbers.
Absolutely, and that's, will be my next step that I'm going to talk about what are we doing and how we're trying to close this gap.
Okay, Commissioner Miller?
So are are these for new applicants? So they're not for applicants that have already been receiving benefits and then have to recertify or renew their application?
No, will be only for new applications.
Okay.
If someone is already in the system, those are renewals, so it's not represented in here because they already have,
Yeah, they already
ongoing,
have, okay.
ongoing benefit.
And you may address this probably in the next slide, but I'd like to know if when the state has made it easier and more accessible online to apply, if there are missing documents, is there a process in which we are finishing up those uncompleted applications in a timely manner?
So that will not be part of my, presentation here, but, this is the known issues, across the state and regionally, right? When main benefit, in my opinion, is just doing what it was created, to make services accessible, easier for people. But infrastructure perspective, that has not been, given to the counties. And this is, what we are going through with the state. They are continuously making updates. Recently, there is one update that was made to main benefit, which will be very huge, which is, when people apply for emergency assistance, for example, there is no context. And people come and apply for public assistance, and there's a question on combined application that asks, do you have emergency? Many people, when they need food, when they need cash, that's also emergency. But emergency from program perspective is a different criteria. That's only when you're losing your home, when you're facing eviction, or you want to get the damage deposit because you have been homeless. Those are only criteria that you could be eligible for emergency assistance. That was not very clear. Recently, main benefit, because of the feedback that they're getting from the community, from counties, they updated, and now there will be threshold to designate between what emergency is. If someone is really facing like what emergency in a current program. So my point here is that there is a work in progress. It's going to be updated. And we are also doing many improvements internally to address those, documents that are incomplete when people send it to us, and how we wanted to expedite them and how we wanted to prioritize them.
Okay.
Director Ali, that gets us to the next slide, that where you talk about the improvements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next slide. So this is like, what are our strategies to improve performance on this? To improve performance and address these challenges, the department has developed strategies to better meet resident demand. We have hired more than 60 eligibility specialists for all financial workers since November, and will continue to hire throughout this year. This will address partially, the staffing shortage that we have. We use overtime to help ensure timely processing of applications and renewals. We have been focusing on service bottlenecks. We continue to adjust our workflow process to ensure expedited applications are always prioritized, and applications are screened for expedited eligibility on the day applications come in. We are promoting digital tools. Thanks for IS and their support. We had integrated email automation into our process to support faster processing applications. These strategies have already resulted in a 10% expedited SNAP performance improvement in January. And you don't see today here, but I've already checked here. I can only see 2 months from the performance that we have done. So we have already seen 10% increase in January. As you see 14 here for the last, that slide that you saw, that slide for January is already 24%. So our projection is this improvement will continue as we fully implement and sustain our operational alignment that we're doing right now within the department. So I'm just highlighting the things that are happening. Also, the other question that Commissioner Japanese Singh was asking earlier about if we have other applications that we must process it within 30 days, those are the applications that do not need with expedited services, that benchmark also will increase. You don't see in here, but that there is also correlation between our 30-day improvement, our 24-hour, 7 days improvements altogether. I think that's my last question.
Commissioner McGuire.
Yeah, great work. I mean, I'm glad I really appreciated the all hands on deck effort. So 60 new hires, I forget if they're permanent or temporary, and or maybe we'll hire them somewhere else in the county, but hopefully once the backlog gets released, or are we thinking we're gonna need all those people to manage this workload?
So this 60, more than 60 to be exact, 65 to be Director Jason who's leading here is here, but I think it's 65 to be exact. So these are not temporary. These are our actual vacant positions that we were not able to fill them over the course of time. Thanks for all of you for the support. Thanks for the county manager to make those, comp and salaries, adjustment. That's helping us.
Yeah,
right now.
and I'm sorry, remind me, did we use some cares, well, not carried, but
ARPA,
any ARPA dollars,
yes, we did. FAS has used ARPA. It was one of the department that benefited for ARPA money. It's no longer with us, but it
Right.
helped us during this crisis time. So it helped us with our phone calls, it helped us with our processings, and we are transitioning to build our resources while, ARPA money is not going to be available in the future.
right? So this is gonna now be on us, because we won't have the ARPA dollars, right? And is it part of the budgeting process that we're gonna be going through to keep them on?
Yeah, we are going to budget the process right now to make sure that we have enough resources for the department.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
Commissioner
Chair,
Kevin,
Commissioner,
Oh, wait. oh, yeah,
clarity,
on that,
clarity
yeah.
on that. I just, those staff were budgeted.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
FAS was
Yeah.
just carrying a pretty significant vacancy
Okay,
rate.
yeah.
As a result of various variables, but just want to make sure.
Yeah, no,
not
thank you,
above and
that
beyond.
people shouldn't
Yeah.
worry, so, yeah,
Yeah.
we don't wanna put a panic out there among
No.
the amazing people that have stepped up to do this, so thank you, yeah, I don't wanna.
The question, oh, sorry, yeah. The question I have is I'm glad to see that there's already been some uptick that we aren't in these guides, but that you are able to report. The idea of increasing our presence at the community sites, I'm just, so we can get to some specific populations. I'm just wondering where are those community sites, and are we maximizing some of our partners in community? I know that that Director Ali and County Manager Becker and I were able to meet with the International Institute late last year. And the idea of being able to, some of the digital divide that we've been able to bridge, then opens up the idea of, if you don't have somebody personally helping somebody through what can be a very complex process, can then cause its own issue, and community partners can help bridge that gap by sitting side by side with their individuals. And I'm just wondering how much of that we're optimizing.
Very good question, Commissioner. So FIS before COVID, we had presence in the community, a number of community sites. We had workers who will go there weekly or always stationed in that location. So during COVID time, everyone was brought back. Now we are re-evaluating based on the needs, based on those, organizations or community sites that we are going to be in. We brought staff, International Institute because of the changing circumstances with refugee status, that will change, how often that we go over there. Right now we do have staff person who goes in the Oromo community site once in a week. And we had recently meeting with a number of community agencies, and we wanted to determine what's the best staffing level that we wanted to stand over there. And I just wanted to point out, we are very stretched thin. I don't want to put any staff in the community that we don't have any values that we're going to. When we put in our staff in the community, we wanted to make sure that they are meeting the need for those communities, and we have staff who are capable to resolve the issue that we have. Not everyone knows all the 11 programs that I just talked about.
Right. Well, and to follow up to that was, and maybe I can re-articulate this. One of the takeaways I had from that meeting was that it wouldn't always require our staff to be
Yes.
there.
Yep.
But because we now have these digital ways of accessing our staff in our own service centers, but working with our community partners so they could be sitting side by side
Yeah.
with residents and helping them along the way, which is kind of the call that we were getting. So it's utilizing their desire to help their community members better access our services. So kind of braiding together what they can offer and what we can offer.
Yeah, I can close this one out. As you know, today, we're gonna be talking a little bit about that. FAS being under Karen Francois, under enterprise services, around that alignment with the enterprise services. So her and I have talked about a more strategic approach around our community sites. And I think I've talked to a couple of you, because you've had interested community sites, and I think we have to do more of a request for like solicitation of sorts, where community sites can be evaluated around, like, do they have case management? How close are they to a population that is on some sort of case with the county? How close are they to service centers? We've talked about, and I think the technology is a really important part. And I like that Trayton set the table too, because when we were at International Institute, some of the thought was, how do we just like make sure they can join a Teams meeting and sit with their caseworker and sort of work through an issue without having to come downtown or to a service center? So that is definitely something Deputy County Manager Francois and I have talked about, and I look forward to that kind of being a next chapter of some of our community work that isn't done just by a department, It needs to have some more strategic thinking of how we show up as one Ramsey County at an organization as well. And so we'll be doing some thinking around that, so.
Well,
yeah.
and to follow up from that, you know, this comes from my years working in older adult services where there were times where we were getting dollars to provide services, but
Yeah.
honestly, the value added that we had as a community-based organization was having that relationship with our residents and then being able to just bridge the gap. So we didn't need to be the ones providing the service, but we were also the ones who already had that trusted relationship and could get them over the finish line and connecting to services that somebody else was providing.
Yeah, I would just add along that line of leveraging our community partners is, we have, SNAP outreach,
Yeah.
folks that the state gives out dollars for to community organizations. One of them is a Community Action Partnership of Ramsey, Washington. They do like the screening, but then also helping apply online. I wonder if there's a way in which we can have our staff work with them to say, this is what a completed application would look like.
Yeah.
And actually be out in their, and like be out with them to do that because.
That's a great segue for this afternoon.
Yeah, that's a good section of the topic, that would be fine.
So,
Just, and then I have a question, just in terms of our numbers here, that like, how our path towards getting to 65% here for our performance measure here, like, is how, I mean, I guess my question is like, can you give me some examples of what has changed, for us to be able to meet that metric?
Yeah, very good question, as I said, during the presentation, we continuously focus on our bottleneck in the process. And identify what are the areas that could delay the application. The key here is the more application delays, the more days going to add up, right? You know, you don't get time to process the applications. One of the major things that the department is going to build as an investment, as an infrastructure change, we're going to create a universal screening team that will have overarching views about incoming documents and application to the department, and those will be focusing on these applications. The changes that we have made already shown, improvement. And we continue to project this will continue. So there will be infrastructure change, staffing capacity that we're going to increase, and automation. And that's another key factor. One of the things that I will talk about later today is the email automation that we changed from manual process to digital process that has saved like 80 employees time in a week. So that, yes, so that, and we are very positive that I don't want to overpromise what we are not able to deliver, as the Director Ganatra was saying earlier, but I'm very confident that these numbers that we put in here is something that we can deliver.
Any other questions? No? Okay, well, great. It's really challenging when you're chairing and trying to like compile all the notes, right? But I would say like, some of this is, we'll get more follow-ups from this afternoon's workshop. Some of it is the location of the Wi-Fi of that plan, of that list of where we're going. And then, let's see. Will we continue to get, like just memos or updates on, some of this progress later on? Just so that we're not waiting, several months in between, or like get 90-day sprints, updates?
Yep.
Okay, okay, great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Good work.
Thank you.
Good job.
I think we need a little break between